Now, me is pretty deep. All self is in me, but me is not all self. For me is the essence or the inner state of my beautiful externalized body. Feel me? What's it like in there? Well, I'll speak from here. I'll tell you what me is like. I feel sweet in me. I am free in me. It is rather beautiful in me. I have love in me. I have clarity in me. I am at peace in me. How's it in me out there, or in there? If you are in me, where I am in me now, and why shouldn't you be? You are then in the profundity of my body, that body there, and it is sweet, and there is no age, and you are the girl or boy at 16, even if you're 50 or 60. But if you are relating at any time in your life to the self in me, instead of relating to the beauty in me, the girl or boy in me, the sweetness in me, if you relate to that stinking self in me, you will worry, you will feel guilty, insecure, worried and unhappy. There comes a time when the burden of the self in me is so great on the beauty of me that something happens. I say, I cannot stand this self, this thing that I seem to be. I can't stand it anymore. This profound change happens in some people when they've had enough of this awful self. That's because God made these bodies, God made life on earth, and God begins in me, deep down in the psyche. There is a life rising forever. Every moment, life is rising out of the depths of me, and it is renewing everything that has life. Every animal, every plant is being renewed by this rising of this extraordinary thing called life. That is intelligent. That life keeps the heart beating, the blood circulating, repairs everything with a miracle every day in this beautiful body, as it repairs this blessed earth every day despite the self's greed and corruption and pollution of it. This beautiful, glorious life that arises out of me and which I can feel this very moment as the sweetness and beauty in me, my body, but not in myself. So this life rising is saying to everybody, have you had enough? Have you suffered enough yet? And then when he loses his 40 companies, or even his little child, he or she says, my God, I'm finished. I've had it. I'm finished. And life is there. For as soon as self is given up, life is there. See? All you got to do is get rid of the rubbish and you find the room is fine. So the man or woman says, God, there is something worthwhile. Instead of driving out, there becomes a little turn or a large turn within. And instead of looking only without, doing it my way, this is what I want, Instead of that, there's a little bit of the perception goes inward, down towards me, towards the sweetness, where the life is rising, the stream of life is coming up, and I cannot help but turn towards the source of life. And between that turning and me, the source of life, is this self. This is the beginning of self-realization, and every one of you is in it, more or less. Self-realization takes 20, 30, 40 years, or is never completed. Remember I said that we know ourselves to be liars and we know ourselves to be phonies and all the rest. We know, but to know something is not to realize it. For instance, all that I have said tonight, you knew. I cannot tell you anything that you do not already know. But when I, the Master, say it, you can realize what you know, if you are ready. But it is fragmented. And it goes on for 20 or 30 years as you start to realize that you are a liar. You then start to live, I will not lie. I will not be attached to this self that lies anymore. Well, that's only an example I'm giving about lying. There are so many other things that you turn your back on as you see yourself and realize yourself within. And as I say, it takes 10, 20, 30, 40 years. As you do this, you discover an authority, an authenticity. You start to get not a mass of self, a substantial mass. You start to get, by getting rid of self, you start to become as nothing. The more you face the liar, the guilty one, and all the rest, they disappear. Each one disappears after a time when you've faced it long enough. And the facing is very, very painful and scary. But as you face it, it starts to dissolve, like all fear or ignorance dissolves. And you start to grow in an emptiness. Not an emptiness, man and woman. Emptiness is of the mind that says, I'm bored, I'm empty, empty of experience. But an emptiness, you start to ladle yourself out. And you start to grow in nothing. And when you look inside yourself, inside me, you start to see nothing. And you say, that's better. And when you go far enough and emptied enough of yourself out, you will say, with a realization that it's absolutely true, that you will know it is absolutely true, whatever anyone says, you will say, I'm free. I'm free. But you're not free yet, but you've got a smell of freedom because you can see there's nothing in me. I'm nothing. You'll realize I am nothing. Now I want you just please to have a look inside of me now. There's nothing in there, is there? Nothing. So you get more and more this realization of nothing as the old fragments of the person are confronted and got rid of. You then say, I'm not attached to golf. I like to play golf. My body likes exercise, right? And I like to play golf. But I'm not attached to it. If, and this is tragic, if my child dies tonight, and I love my child, and am not attached to my child, my body may sob. But I won't attach myself to my sobbing just because everybody says how sad it is and how tragic it is to have lost your child. For I would have to say, look, there's a little child dying somewhere else in the world tonight, I'm not special. The form of my child is dead, will be buried and decomposed in a few days. But while I have love of my child is not dead. For I did not love my child's body. I loved the essence of my child. And that is my love within me. And my child is not dead. That's if I knew the truth of life. If I discovered nothing in me, that would be revealed to me. If I am honest to life like that, then life will be honest to me and reveal to me, there is no death, my son, my daughter. There is love, and love is not dead. Love is now. So these sort of insights will come into the man or woman who is realizing the self. This goes on and I become more and more authentic. I then start to speak to people with more authority, not of my worldly knowledge, because I see that's all self. I'll even say, everything that I say is crap, because it is self-speaking, and so don't believe a word I'm saying, but I'll endeavour to get it out as straight as I can, but don't believe anything I say about the world. It'll just be an opinion. After I've got pretty well into self-realization, I'll get a touch of guru-itis. Of course, to be free of self is to be guru. I didn't make the rules, you know. That's how it is. When you are free of self, when you have realized self, and when you've done a few things after that, you are guru. Or a few things have been done for you. So by this time you've got a touch of guru-itis, and everyone's a bit afraid to come near you. Because as soon as they come near you, any self, it won't be long before you'll be pointing out to them what the self is in them. And they say, not him again. I'll become quite intolerant, as a matter of fact, at this stage. I'll become even forceful with the self that remains of me that I haven't seen. When I sit in a room, there'll be a sort of bristling coming out of me. Nobody's really comfortable because, you see, all this is done psychically. There's no communication out here. It's all done by psychic emanations. And this sort of intolerance with self is very uncomfortable to our psychic self, as it is uncomfortable to the one who's realizing his self. Now, we could be 10, 15, 20 years in by now. He starts to become intolerant with the world. He's not only intolerant with himself and the people. He sees that people are stupid and because they won't get rid of their self. He then starts to see the whole of existence, the whole world as self, as ignorance. He sees business, everything as ignorance, because really, you see, the whole world is himself, isn't it? I made this world. It's myself. I suddenly lift my face up and I see the whole world out here, and I say, my God, this is myself too. And this goes on for, as I say, 20 or 40 years. However, there is a process in the latter years where I start to become a bit more mellow as I throw all this out of what I'm doing is detaching myself from it. But I get attached to my detachment from it. See? And then I start to recede quite nicely down into me, to the bottom of me, and I become easy and mellow at perhaps round about the age of 60 or 65 with a bit of luck. And then I am detached from the whole thing, and it's all self, I know that, but it is not me. I made this self, I am responsible for the whole thing, but it is not me. Then I am free. I then start to be. Self-realization is to live detachment from all concern about the world or what is happening in it. It is to detach from all guilt, all resentment, likes, dislikes, to detach from everything that is the world. Now, I only said to detach from it. I didn't say that anything disappeared. The world remains precisely as it is, except it is seen to be a disharmonious harmony. It is seen in its whole that everything is right. It is not seen that everything is good. It is seen that everything is right. And you know that life or God is still, believe it or not, in charge. You then begin the process of detachment from detachment. This is not realized and has never been explained on this earth. For you are hearing tonight the most complete description of self-realization and being that has yet been recorded. For I am being. Being is a very long process of detachment from detachment. It cannot be described. I cannot go any further in words to describe this state to you, except that all my knowledge, my infinite knowledge of life and love and truth and God and death, comes out of me or comes from my being. For even me disappears, because me is being. Right. You will share in my being by just staying with me. And when you stay with me in this stillness, this silence inside of me, you are in touch and facing your reality. For it is my power, if you are ready, to put you in touch with me inside of you. The stillness that is your reality. Now I was going to talk about woman, about self. Man is the principle on earth with something to do, according to my definition. Woman has nothing to do but to be loved and to be loved. Once woman is loved, she doesn't want to do anything else, it just follows. She will do what she does. When woman is loved by man and loved enough, she then realizes that she is loved. She's just master, I don't like the word mistress, but master of love. Very still, passive, sweet, beautiful. That's woman. She goes through the same process of self-realization to wake up to herself, to know herself, to realize herself. But she will realize, I am love. And in that, she then emits power. She has the power to change man. So he who is the master of the world can only be mastered by woman of love. She tries to master him with herself, her emotions. She has no chance. He gave her those emotions. Every woman's emotion was put into her by man and his lack of love for her. So woman, when she starts to self-realize, she's going to have to get rid of her emotions. And she has to stop new emotions being put into her by man. Her job is to just be love. Man, as I say, his realization is more intellectual than woman. Man realizes the truth that I've described to you tonight, and then invariably has to give it to the people. For where I am, for instance, I am serving myself. Only myself has now been manifested outside of me as the people. The people are myself. I serve the emotions and the ignorance in the people. I endeavor to face that and take that out of their bodies, just as I took it out of my own here, my own psyche. So I serve myself in my being. Okay. Yes, the man at the back.
As an ordinary man, are you enlightened in the same way that the Buddha meant the word?
As an ordinary man, are you enlightened as the Buddha meant? I don't know that the Buddha was enlightened. I am Buddhi, if that's any answer to you.
What does that word mean?
Well, there's no Buddha. Buddha has no meaning whatever, because Buddha is historical, and there is no truth in history or in the past. I am Buddhi. I am intelligence. I am pure intelligence. I am consciousness. I am now. I am this moment, this instant. That is Buddhi, moving so fast that I do not hold any moment inside of me.
Is there any further stage of maturity that you could go?
There are masters, as you all know, who keep changing their names regularly. I won't say every 5 minutes, but every few years. And the reason that they do this is because the consciousness moves so fast, and there is no end to the consciousness, that they reach a certain stage and they say, well, this is it, and my name is Bhagwan, I am God. But there's no end, and no man is God. He only realizes he is God, but then he can only be an ordinary man after the realization. To be ordinary is to be as nothing. So then a few years later he might call himself Bhagwan something else, you know, because his consciousness has suddenly reached a climacteric, again because there is no end to consciousness and what it reveals, in which he says, no, that's not the end of it, I'm this. This is it. I am it. And then darn it, if he doesn't realize something else. You've got to have a new name. The truth is there is no end to my consciousness, and it is the divine consciousness which is in everyone and everything. It is it. That's all. And no one can claim it. No one can comment on it really. It is just being, and even that's a limitation of it. So we've reached the end of the evening. I trust that I have opened up the vision of life a little wider for you. So in dealing with self and in getting your life right, it does take time in the external circumstances. But in the inner state, it doesn't take time, does it? You can go into me, be out of existence, within, while externally you are in existence. And that's why the man said, I am in the world, but I am not of it. In that place inside of me, all is one. And that will be revealed to you the more you go into me, that there is only one, and it is me, and in me is everything. So thank you for being with me, for you see, eventually you have to serve yourself. I am serving myself. You are myself, so I serve you. In that way, I free myself of self every moment. Thank you. Good night.